Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hogue, author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Join my VIP program. You must commit to my VIP program. You speak English fluently, speak English powerfully. You speak English confidently. You speak English effortlessly when you join my VIP program today. You commit, don't quit. Commit at effortlessenglishclub.com. Go to that website, effortlessenglishclub.com. Our topic today is flexibility. Flexibility, related to a couple of the other topics we've been talking about this week. And I'll be reading another verse, another section from the Daodejing, one of my very favorite books, the Daodejing. All right, let's get started. I'm going to put on the members chat for now. Okay. And all right, we're good. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen if you're watching on video. And then I'm going to read this section of the Daodejing. Let's take a look. How does it look? What? Oop. Nope, that's not what I want. I want this. There we go. All right. Here we go. So it's verse 76. 76 from the Daodejing. And it's titled, Stay Flexible. Stay Flexible. I'll read it first, then I'll go back, and I'll explain it. Okay. A living being is tender and flexible. A corpse is hard and stiff. It is the same with everything. Leaves and grasses are tender and delicate, but when they die, they become rigid and dry. Those who are hard and inflexible belong to death's domain, but the gentle and flexible belong to life. As soon as a tree reaches its greatest height, it begins to die. The strongest soldiers are those who refuse to conquer. The strong stumble and the mighty fall. The tender and weak rise above. All right, back to the beginning. Stay flexible. So a living being is tender. Tender means soft. And flexible. So something that's alive is soft and flexible. A corpse is hard and stiff. A corpse is a dead body. Corpse. Corpse. There's a vocab word for you. A corpse. A corpse is a dead body, and a corpse is hard and stiff. It is the same with everything. Leaves and grasses are tender and delicate. Soft, delicate, again, meaning kind of gentle. But when they die, they become rigid and dry. Rigid is the opposite of flexible, right? So flexible means easy to bend. Easy to bend. Rigid is the opposite. It means kind of hard to bend, right? If you try to bend it, it'll break instead. Rigid, very stiff. And then, of course, all of this is really teaching us a psychological lesson, a spiritual lesson, right? So it's also true just in terms of our physical bodies, but really this is more about our mental and emotional and spiritual qualities. All right, next paragraph. Those who are hard and inflexible means not flexible. Those who are hard and inflexible belong to death's domain. Domain is like a kingdom or an area that you control. domain. So it's saying people who have a mental attitude, they're very hard, very rigid. They can't learn, they can't adapt, right? Everything's always the same all the time. Their mind is very rigid, not flexible. That in fact they belong to death domain, right? It means they're kind of already half dead in some ways. And we'll see this, this is a common thing you will see as people age. I guess it's the stereotype in a way of that old people are not only physically do they become stiff, but mentally and emotionally too. But the gentle and flexible belong to life, right? So the more alive someone is, the more gentle they are, the more flexible they are. And we can see this most clearly with babies and small children. And again, this is very true physically, of just your physical body, right? Babies are like master yogis. They can stretch and put their feet in their mouth, and they can, little kids can do this. It's pretty amazing. They're so soft and flexible, right? And then stereotypically, as people get older, their bodies get more and more inflexible, more and more stiff. And then we have, if you can kind of imagine the common person who's, let's say, 90, right? What do you imagine? You imagine they're very, very stiff, right? Okay, and this is, as soon as a tree reaches its greatest height, it begins to die. So again, of course, this is a metaphor, right, for people, meaning that people who are too ambitious and they reach too high, that when they finally reach that point, then there's nowhere to go but down, right? They start going down, they start declining. The strongest soldiers are those who refuse to conquer. And this is kind of a martial arts idea, really, that those who are the strongest end up being the most gentle, right? The strongest soldiers, the best soldiers, the strongest fighters, no longer need to go around fighting everybody. They don't have a desire to conquer people who are weaker than them. And like I said, I've seen this very strongly in jiu-jitsu, among people in jiu-jitsu. And then finally it says the strong stumble. Stumble means kind of the trip, right? You kick something and you almost fall. And the mighty fall. Mighty means powerful. The powerful fall. But then finally the last sentence, or the last phrase rather, the tender. Again, tender means soft. And it kind of has the idea of gentle, like emotionally gentle. The tender and weak rise above. The tender and the weak rise above. I think probably a very good example of this from history, a person would be Mahatma Gandhi, who, in many ways was very tender, very, very soft, very gentle. And yet, well, first of all, he lived a very long time, and he was, just in terms of his physical body, he was pretty impressive. I mean, even at a pretty late age, he was walking long distances and pretty active physically, and of course mentally as well. And we can see this in, like I said, in many different areas of life. So this is, like, I've been thinking about this just in terms of physical, right? That I've started realizing that I need to add in like exercise. Thinking about trying yoga a little bit, even just some basic stretching. And I've been looking at some yoga for beginners online, some channels on YouTube, for example. I don't know that I'm going to become, really, really get into yoga. Some people become very impressive in yoga, but just to stay flexible, basically, to not get stiff, because as people get older, they tend to get stiff. Even by the time people are teenagers, a lot of times they're quite inflexible. They can't stretch very much. So just for your physical health, it's good to have this component. You want to keep your strength, so you want to have some kind of strength exercise just to keep your muscles, and you definitely want to keep your energy, so you need endurance, walking or jogging or swimming, biking, something like that. But it's good to add in some sort of flexibility exercise as well. Yoga is probably the most comprehensive, the most effective probably, but even just basic stretches. But then I think more importantly, and we've talked about this week a little bit with William Shatner and aging well, and I think that's one of the key things I see in him, at least in his career. I don't know what his personal life is like, but in his career, his acting career, very impressive that he's been very, very, very flexible. Not just acting, in fact. And that's one of the key things, that he has stayed active, right up to 89 years old. But he was very flexible. He was a TV actor, then he got these big movies in the 80s and also TV shows. Then he wrote a series of science fiction books, right? He just was flexible. He just tried it. He quite famously or infamously recorded an album of singing, and he's not a very good singer, quite honestly. And a lot of people kind of laughed at him about his music album and ha ha ha, But again, he did this at an age that was, well into adulthood. I don't remember how old he was, probably in his late 30s or 40s when he recorded his album. And then he recorded a second album, I think, when he was in his 60s or 70s, something like that. And so it just shows, what it shows is a willingness to try different things. It shows a willingness to fail. Right? It shows a willingness even to have people laugh at him and criticize him, right? Even at a later age, to just go ahead and try singing, even though he wasn't that good of a singer. And, a lot of people laughed at him about his first album. And then he went and did a second one. And his singing is almost kind of like singing, talking. But, I wouldn't say I like the music, but I'm impressed by the attitude, right? That he just didn't care. So many people become too proud as they get older. And then he was flexible, where he started making documentaries and directing them. He just kept trying new things, stayed mentally flexible in his career, and that's impressive. And you'll see this again and again with people who are lively, right? They're lively as adults. So many adults become inflexible. They become rigid. They just stiff. They keep the same beliefs their whole life, right? Even though they get new information, even though they probably should change their belief, but they don't. And they become afraid to try new things. They become afraid to look foolish, to be embarrassed. They become afraid to fail, and they become less and less and less and less flexible. And so they end up like the Daodejing says here, they belong to death's domain. It means, they kind of die before they're dead. They die emotionally. And so we want to do the opposite. We want to develop that flexibility, physically for sure, but more importantly, mentally. This is important in business. If you get into business, then you've got to stay flexible because things change. I mean, look at what's happening right now with the world economy. What a massive change, right? A sudden crisis, unexpected for most people. And people who are not flexible right now are really in trouble, right? You've got to be able to make some big changes very fast, adapt, and change quickly. Not even if you're an entrepreneur, even just if you're working jobs, you may have lost your job. So you need to suddenly be able to adapt and change. Maybe you have to start a new business yourself. You had a job, you lost it. What are you going to do? Well, make changes fast, right? Try new things quickly. You have to be flexible. You can't just get stuck. Oh, I don't know what to do. If you're inflexible, the situation is going to be quite bad. If you're flexible, if you're willing to do new things and try new things and improvise and adapt and overcome, then you have a very good chance of being fine. You'll be okay. This might include, for example, if you lost your job, it might mean you have to completely change your career. You might need to switch to something totally different, right? It might be, maybe now's a good time to do that. And again, this is a sign of flexibility. You don't hold on to something just because you did it before. If it's not going to work for you now, then make a big change. Or even if you don't lose your job. We've had people in comments in past shows talk about how they hated their job and they're just unhappy and miserable. So change, right? It's absolutely crazy to be inflexible, to hold on to a job you hate just because you've done it a long time, or just because it's paying you a lot of money. It's insane. It's crazy. This is your life. So don't be inflexible. Change. Be flexible. Be willing to try new things, make changes, bend, right, with the circumstances. Bend instead of breaking. And, as part of this, I would say, is the willingness to experiment, which is this, thing I talk about constantly. Is this is an attitude of flexibility that you're willing to try things. You're willing to try something new, and you're willing to let go. I think that's probably part of being flexible too, is willing to let go of the past. Willing to let go of the past. Willing to let go of past failures. Willing to let go of past goals, past beliefs. And willing to let go of past successes. Sometimes people can become prisoners of success, right? Like, I think of, people who, for example, maybe they were really popular and athletic or something in high school. And then, 20 years later, they're still thinking about high school. They're still telling stories all the time about high school and how great it was. And it becomes very sad because they're just trying to hold on to the glory days that happened 20 years ago, instead of making new glory days now, doing different things, right? Because, okay, so let's say they're 38 or they're 40, and okay, they can't be the football star anymore, and their life's completely different. So, but there's still many opportunities to do amazing things in other areas of life in a different way. But if people who are not flexible, they just hold on. Sometimes they get trapped by success. It's possible to become trapped by a past success if you hold on to it too much. And sometimes we just have to let them go. It's like, that was great, but it's over. And then you move forward. That's part of being flexible too. And, people always, the common metaphor is, the trees, there's the oak tree, which is strong, tall, but in a big storm will break. Then there's the willow, that is soft and flexible, and in a big storm it just bends and it won't break. And this is, again, another idea. So flexibility is a sign of life. And I think right now is it's a great time to think about this topic, right? Because when there's a big storm, when we're experiencing a big storm, right, metaphorically, right, an economic storm, a political storm, other cultural storm, that we have to be able to bend. You got to bend, be flexible. Don't hold on to the old ways. Don't keep trying to do everything exactly the same as you used to. It's not a time for that. It is a time to think quickly, make fast decisions, try new things, bend, don't break. And that can be exciting. That can be exciting if you have the right mindset. Okay, let's get into our comments. I'll get with members. A lot of people have been joining the YouTube memberships just to support the show, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I got a baby waking up. 1 second. Are you okay? Okay, thank you. All right, my wife's got him. Dinner time. Okay, Ilana Khan says hi. Fernanda Kumipon. Elena, hi. Fernando Slavica. Okay, Vladislav has the first comment here. In one of the VIP lessons, you talked about public speaking. If you stand stiffly behind a podium, you become a boring speaker. Absolutely. Especially if you read your notes, you become like a robot. That's a good example of this. Flexibility also has the idea of motion, right? People who are flexible can move. People who are not flexible, right? They're stuck. They can't move well. They don't move quickly. They don't move smoothly. They don't move well. This is true physically, and of course, then we can also think about this in a mental way or an emotional way too. And public speaking is a great example of this. I mean, so many speakers, they're so boring, right? They'll stand behind a podium. That's that little rectangle thing they stand behind. They put their notes there, and then they just stand there, basically not moving, and just give their speech from there, often just reading from their notes. I can't tell you how many times I've seen public speakers who will stand and they will actually turn their back almost all the way to the audience. Like they'll be turning. If you're watching on video, I'll do it. But they turn kind of sideways, but almost all the way looking back because they have their PowerPoint kind of on a screen and the screen's behind them. So they're looking back, they're turning their face away from the audience, and then they just read their PowerPoint notes. And this is their idea of public speaking. That's their speech. It's horrible. And it is very common. I've seen, especially in the business world, and in nonprofits too. I've seen, and in education, I've just seen so many. That's probably the most common kind of speech I've seen, probably, when I've been in the audience. And it's, oh my God, it's boring. It's horrible. Don't do that if you're going to do public speaking. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. It is horrible. And of course, if you're in the audience, first of all, you can read a lot faster than someone that can talk. So in about 10 seconds, you're in the audience. Every member of the audience reads the whole thing. It takes them about 10, 15 seconds. And then they're just sitting there waiting for you to slowly read through it, or waiting for the speaker, hopefully not you, waiting for the speaker to It is horrible. There's no point. If that's all you're going to do, just send everybody your notes, and then don't forget this. You don't need to do the speech. Juan Alarte says, I want to be flexible to find another job in the near future. I do not stay stuck with today's situation. Nice. Ilana Khan says, the idea is similar to the law of nurture. It's better to go with the flow of water. Yes, this is a very Taoist idea. They use water a lot as a metaphor. Better to go with the flow of water than against it. That's exactly right. We need to adapt ourselves to circumstances. This is a very, 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 very easy way to imagine it. Go with the flow, not against it. Often called Wu Wei in Taoism. Fernanda says, I don't like people that always seem hard. I get uncomfortable. Yeah, well, this is why. Because it is uncomfortable. They make people uncomfortable for this reason. Slavika says, I think now is the time to become flexible and adapt to the situation, particularly mentally flexible. I think for those who don't have being flexible so far, that's right. Now is a very good time. This is an excellent example of we got to flow with this situation and adapt and move with it. Be flexible in whatever areas of life you need to. Juan again says, I want to try new things, having the right mindset. I don't like to talk in front of people. I get nervous a little. Well, everyone does. I have spoken in front of people, but a couple times only. Well, Juan, all that's totally normal. I was terrified the first couple times I did it. So, don't worry about it. Just do it more. Do it more. You become more and more and more relaxed as you do more public speaking. I read in the Harari book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he writes that in the 21st century, you'll need to be flexible, to study new things. Old jobs will be replaced by robots, so you'll need to study for new jobs. Right. Exactly. You got to be open to new things, and not only open, but actually seek them out is even better. If you actually seek them out. All right, I'll turn on the old comments here for everybody. That's all the members. You know, much of the Daodejing has this kind of a theme to it. You know, I'd say, it's a very central idea, a central theme of Taoism, of going in harmony with the Tao, going in harmony with nature, not fighting against it, being flexible, being willing to bend, not trying to, control everything. What kind of society do you think we have after the coronavirus? I mean, I don't know. I think that most people will just go back to what they were doing. A few people, I hope, will wake up a bit. Economically, I have no idea what's going to happen. It's kind of hard to predict. So I think the key thing is don't worry about it. And focus instead on where you have influence, which is what kind of life are you going to have? What kind of changes do you want to make? And start making them now. Lana Khan says it's a hard thing is to stay ourselves, especially in a world constantly trying to change us. Yeah, well, that's the more you turn off the propaganda, it's a lot easier to do that. You're not constantly getting all these messages trying to program you. So as you turn that stuff off, the television being the worst, as you turn it off, then you'll find your brain will kind of clear after a few months, and you won't feel this so much anymore. Can you show us the cover of your book? Are you talking about the Daodejing, Fernanda? I think I can. Yeah. 1 second. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Cover. Cover. Now you're going to find, this is a book that's written in Chinese, so there are several different translations, therefore different covers. So I'll show you the one I've got, which seems pretty good. Oop. And this. Daodejing, the Book of the Way, Lao Tzu. And who's the translator? Translation by Dwight Goddard. Based on a 1919 translation by Dwight Goddard and then revised by Sam Torode. Okay, so the cover, it's kind of got a blue cover with like water on it. But you'll find a lot of other there are a lot of other translations of this book out there. This one seems pretty good. Yeah, Victor Muniz says we have to be like water flowing with life. It's a very, very, very common image in Taoism, flowing like water. Okay, let's see. Jamila says, when I moved from my capital to my native small place a few years ago, because of medical problems and stressful work, I was saying to myself, every end means a new beginning. And it gave me the inside power to do it. There you go. And that's a sign of flexibility right there, to completely change your life. You're in the city, living in the city. You realize you have got some problems physically or any kind of problems, and you make a big change. You go back to the countryside. Right? That's flexibility. the ability to make changes. I mean, that's really what flexibility is, the ability to move. And when we're talking about mentally, it's the ability to make changes easily, smoothly, quickly, if necessary. Yeah, like Bahar says, I wish I was flexible like kids. They can change their mindset easily. They can be happy in every situation. Yeah, they're very flexible. Yeah, model children in this area. The legend said, I lost my job. I don't know what to do right now. I have to do something. Yep. Just try something. Take action. Keep taking action. Keep trying things. That's the main thing. Keep moving forward, pressing forward, making decisions fast. Don't get stuck in depression. Don't get stuck trying to figure out the perfect thing. Take action and keep going. Yeah, Sandra has a good point. When I was in my NLP course, our teacher told us that a system is controlled by the flexible person. Good point. I totally agree with her. Flexibility is the main key to freedom and success. Yeah, that is an excellent point. That in a system, in a group, that the most flexible person has a great deal of influence because they can move, they can make faster decisions. They kind of, so they get ahead of people. They get ahead of everybody else in a way, mentally and in decision making, because other people get so stuck and they move so slowly. Passion Freak says, I'm learning Chinese. Maybe someday I'll read it in the native Chinese language. That would be really cool. Yeah, I highly recommend that. Good luck to you. Ong says, the book Who Moved My Cheese is a great example of this. Management book. I think actually maybe just more of a self-help book. The writer Dr. Spencer taught us how to adapt and change because things are changing around us. Yes, that's right. Jermila says, when I started brushing up my English with you, AJ, I started loving the process. You're a top motivator. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, see, cool. See, Juan here's giving an example of being flexible in terms of jobs. I've worked as a bartender and an Uber driver during the past months. It's been challenging, not easy at all. I had to motivate myself to do these jobs. Right? But you're doing what you have to do. You're not getting stuck. And who knows? And, next month or 2 months from now, things are different, very different again. So stay flexible. Adapt. How do you become more flexible, asked Mahdi? By trying new things and making fast decisions. Taking risks. Things like that. Push yourself to do those things. Lisa says, I think the more challenges we face in life, the more flexible we can be. Good point. I tried the first time a 1-day dry fast yesterday. I was surprised how well I could get through it. Cool. Right, exactly. Right? Don't let fear stop you. Just try things. This is one of the big ways to stay flexible, and it's one of the problems you see with old people. Old people. Whatever their age. There are a lot of 20-year-old old people. A lot of them. Mentally old, where they're just afraid to do anything new. Like I talk about fast. I've done shows about fasting. You'll die if you do a dry fast for a day. Don't do it. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Just try things, guys. Most things are not going to kill you. Not in our modern world now. So, don't be so afraid. Just try stuff, right? That's a great example of this. I also had this idea, actually. I thought dry fasting was going to be so hard. I finally decided to do it, and the first day was actually super easy. I was very surprised. I thought I was going to get headaches, all this stuff. Nothing. It was really easy. I was shocked how easy it was. Now, I had been doing other like water fasting for a lot at that time, so I mean my body was already adapted to it. But still, the point being that be flexible. Try things. Try new challenges. New challenges do keep you flexible. Absolutely, they do. Fernanda says sometimes people don't realize the power of tenderness. Indeed they don't. And this emotionally, this is true too. Madi asked, have you read the book Change Your Thinking to Change Your Life? It's amazing. I haven't, but I'll check it out. Carol, good to see you. Flexibility makes you more happy because it means you don't have any expectations. You never get disappointed or upset. Right. That's also true. You let go of the need to control. Stop trying to control things and just let go. Ken says, I just bought a book named The Big Picture by Dennis Littke. Yep, one of my Power English lessons is about that book. It's a really good book. Oh, this is cool. We got a family of effortless English learners. Mariel says, AJ, you're a great man. With the help of your program, my father studied with your program when he came to the U.S. the first time. Now my husband is studying. You're a very good teacher. Nice. The whole family. Rustlin says, being flexible helps with making friends. Others will feel good around us if we are flexible. That's true too. Have you read chapter 80 of the Daodejing? I have. I haven't memorized exactly what chapters say everything. I could pull it up right now. What's chapter 80? Let's see. Happy at home. There you go. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one for right now. Yeah. Oh, here's the end of it. Your people will be so content, meaning happy, they will grow old and die without ever wanting to leave home. This is kind of a verse about good government. In a small country with few people, government is necessary, but let it be very limited. This is excellent advice, which, of course, there are almost no countries in the world following this advice now. Certainly not China, and certainly not the United States. But anyway, that's excellent. Yes, very good. So check out, read the Daodejing. Like I said, it's an incredible book. Absolutely incredible. Very, very, very deep. A lot said in a few words. Inflexible makes you not in control of action. That's right. Again, if you want to see this in a martial arts way, I would say jiu-jitsu is a really good example of this. That you will. It's another memory, a strong memory I have of jiu-jitsu is that, again, the best guys, the best fighters, are the most flexible. I mean, not only physically, and they do tend to be physically flexible, but just in terms of the way they flow like water. You watch a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and they're flowing, and they're not. It's not a fight of power. And like I can remember my instructor, and then you watch the white belts and people like me, and it's always about force, trying to like if I was going against him and I pull, let's say if I was going against one of the instructors, he wouldn't pull back. He would just go. It was like he would just go with me and then do something else to me and knock me down. And it was like fighting against water, right? And water that can choke you. It's quite amazing. And you watch two guys who are really good in jiu-jitsu, And especially when it's called rolling, when they're kind of playing around lightly, the way they just go from position to position to position, and it just seems to flow. It's so almost like a dance. It's very impressive. Very impressive. But then you watch two white belts, the beginners, go against each other, and it's like it's all about their faces are red, and they're trying to use all this power and strength, and they're pulling each other and pushing each other, and it doesn't look very graceful. It's not flowing at all. It's very interesting. I'm guessing judo will probably be similar. Yeah, Edson Lopez de Silva Jr. says, be gentle and doors are going to open for you. Being gentle does not mean to be weak. Be flexible and adapt to every situation in life. Don't let people use or manipulate or disrespect you. Exactly. Again, I think that jiu-jitsu is a really great metaphor for this as well, because again, like the really great jiu-jitsu fighters, they don't fight. They don't, if you attack them, if you come at them, you jump on them, you try to punch them, right? They don't come back at you directly. They will not try to knock you down directly. They will do something else. Usually they'll usually just go back with you and then pull you down. For example, like if you're standing up against a good jiu-jitsu fighter, right? They don't let you, they're not weak, but they also are very, very flexible and almost gentle, at least in the beginning. So if you kind of like grab them, for example, on the shirt and you push them, right? Or you hold them and you're going to hit them. They're probably just going to go backwards with you. But what they're going to do is you're pushing them, instead of pushing back against you, they're going to pull you. And then they're going to pull you right down to the ground, and then you're dead. You're in trouble. So it's a good metaphor for social life or business, for anything, that don't try to fight directly, right? Use that power against people and be very flexible. Be more flexible than someone else who's attacking you mentally or emotionally or verbally. And if you're more flexible, you can absorb and avoid things and come right back at them. It's very effective. It's impressive to see someone who's very good at it. Yeah, like Ruslan says, flexibility is also power. It keeps fear away because you can adapt to anything. This is an excellent point, because if you're rigid and you're strong and but you depend on doing one thing, then you got to be kind of afraid. On one hand, you're strong and powerful now, but you're also afraid that if things change, then you're in trouble, right? But if you're flexible, you don't need to be afraid of change. You're not afraid of change because whatever happens, I'll adapt. And it does give you more confidence. Yeah, like Rabin says, snakes are a good example of being flexible. They're able to survive even without having hands or legs or wings. Good point. Juan says, I like to watch martial arts movies with Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Anis is right. Meditation makes you less stressed, therefore more flexible and very strong. Right, meditation, just from the mental standpoint, is all about being flexible, just clearing your mind and having a clear, open mind, right? In meditation, you're not fighting against your thoughts. You're not fighting against emotions. You're just letting them come and go. Oh, cool. Carol says it's only €3 for this version of the Daodejing. There you go, guys. €3. Go buy it. Read it. It's great. Do you always have to be gentle and flexible in all tough situations? I'd say flexible, yeah. again, like, get on YouTube and just YouTube some famous just Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody famous. Marcelo Garcia. And watch how this guy moves, okay? And he's a little dude. He's a little guy, right? He could kill you. He could kill me. He could kill everyone watching this. With his bare hands, right? He absolutely could kill every one of us with his hands. But he's a little guy. So he's not doing it with pure power. He's not doing it with pure strength, right? It's his flexibility and his speed. But he's older now, so it's even more his flexibility, his flow of movement, and of course his skill. So you can be deadly, and even just in physically, and very, very, very flexible. And Ilanakan's right when we're talking in the area of creativity. Flexible people are the most creative ones, full of ideas and energy. Yes, and so it helps in creative endeavors. It helps in your job, in your career, and making money, and in relationships, and all these different areas. Exactly. You don't stop thinking, Kumipon says, when you're flexible. That's right. Just looking at the time, just a couple more. Okay, here's an unrelated question, but I'll take it. Where would you like to spend your vacation after the corona is gone? Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. I've been thinking about Hawaii a lot recently. Take the babies and my wife to Hawaii. Jermila says, I myself feel nature more deeply. And inside the feeling of importance of friendship, love, nature, religion, because of this corona time. Yep, I agree. Archayaji is doing some great videos right now too. You should check out his channel, Dharma Nation YouTube channel. He's been live streaming once a week, I believe. I'm looking forward to the Hobbit show. Probably tomorrow. Probably I'll do the Hobbit tomorrow. Yeah, another is kind of Anise as an example. Says in the Matrix, Neo, in the beginning was very frightened, less flexible. After he became more flexible, he trained a lot and avoided fear. Yep, good. Another good example. Jamarilla says, yesterday I read a Gab comment about you. It said, I'm so happy to see AJ is a geek too. I am as well. Maybe we can make an Effortless English geek community here. Nice. Who wrote that? I'm curious. Is that because of this? I was talking about Star Trek and Shatner, or some other reason? It's true, but I'm just curious. Yeah, here's a great example of being flexible. Lisa says, I was 42 when I went to another country and changed from being a marketing manager to a caregiver. It was my best decision. Exactly. I don't know, people get, some people, they focus too much on a number. Well, I'm 42, so I can't make a big change now. I'm 65, so I have to do everything the same as I used to, right? These are just numbers. There's no reason you have to do that. And as I said, I've met a good number of what I would describe as old young people who are incredibly inflexible and already so rigid in their thinking. Quite a sad thing to see, but I've met a good number of them. So it's not really the age that's the issue, although there's a tendency for people as they get older to get more rigid mentally, right? To get kind of stuck. So it's good to be aware of it and to fight against it. And this is why it's important then through your whole life to constantly kind of push yourself a little, not aggressively, but to just always be encouraging yourself and pushing yourself to always learn something new, always try something new, always find new challenges every year. Make it this just part of your life for your whole life. And every year you try some new things. Like I'm going to try yoga. Will I keep doing it? I have no idea. I've done a little bit of it before, but I'm just going to play around with it. Watch some YouTube videos, try it out. We'll see. But it's just something new to try. Can do it at home. So just that kind of thing. It can be small things like that. Just constantly, every year, all the time. You're learning something a little new. You're trying something new. And even if you fail, and even if you try it and you don't like it, even if you try it and you look foolish and you're really bad at it, so what, right? Like that's like Shatner's example of singing. Who cares? Good for him for doing it. And same thing. We can all do this. Do we think it's tough to be flexible in this world? I don't think this world has anything to do with it. It's just a lot of people get stuck. Yeah, Yanmi Ling, Chinese, so obviously knows a lot about the Daodejing. That Lao Tzu mentions inaction many times, Wu Wei, which is inaction is not quite the right English translation, I think. I've seen it translated as effortless effort. This phrase, this Wu Wei idea is actually what inspired the name Effortless English. Is exactly this. It's the idea of that you're acting in harmony with the Tao, with nature, instead of going against it. That idea of flowing down a river instead of trying to go up it. And so it's not exactly inaction, right? But when you flow with nature, when you're flexible to that extreme, then it feels totally effortless because you're not going against anything, right? It's very easy to go down a river in a boat. Very, very easy. It's not so easy to go up the river, right? It's this kind of idea. And so it's same in life, that as we're presented with things, to look for opportunities that we can go with, right? Instead of trying to fight against everything. And then we get exhausted. Natalia says, on the other hand, flexible people are unreliable. No, it's really two different ideas. It's two different ideas. I mean, there are unreliable people, but being flexible does not mean to be unreliable. It's a different idea. And it could destroy some of our life. For example, I don't want to be successful, make money. I want to be happy. So I don't need to be flexible. I don't quite follow your comment. But anyway, the idea, I know what you're saying. We call that flaky. Here's a little bit of an idiom, a little bit even almost slang phrase for you. Flaky people. Flaky people are people who are unreliable. It means that you can't trust them. Not that they're going to cheat you. They're not evil. They're just like these are people you make an appointment to have lunch and then they never show up, right? And they say, "Oh, sorry, I forgot." And then, okay, that happens sometimes, but this happens like constantly. They're constantly doing things like that. Like they're supposed to get some work done and they don't do it, and they just they promise something and then they don't do it. Right? They're very, very, very unreliable. That's not flexibility. That's being flaky. Sometimes it's being lazy. It's being unreliable. Different. It's not what we're talking about. Amar says, how can you be flexible but not lose dignity? And I mean, for example, in a workplace, you can be flexible with your team members, yeah, or customers who insult you. Well, again, like, you guys, I think, are kind of mixing the idea of flexibility with some other ideas. Flexibility means the ability to adapt and to adapt well and to flow with things. So, I don't know if I'll give you an example from the dating world. It's called agree and amplify. Try this sometimes. It's a technique. If someone insults you, they say, "You're stupid." Okay, there are different ways you can react to this. Well, one way, a very flexible way, kind of a woo way, right? Going with it instead of against it, is you agree with it. And then you amplify it, meaning you make it even worse. You say, "Yeah, you're right. I'm completely an idiot. I don't know anything at all. I know nothing about my job. I'm completely incompetent. And you're obviously much, much better than I am." Right? And then what do they say after that? Right? Of course, you may be being sarcastic. You're probably being sarcastic. But you see, instead of going, "No, I'm not," and getting all angry and then trying to fight him, you just agree, and then you exaggerate it to make it sarcastic or obviously ridiculous. And then if they keep insulting and say, "Well, yeah, you're stupid." And you say, "Yeah, I know, I'm an idiot. I am so stupid. And you are so smart. You are a genius. And I'm stupid. I know nothing. So, obviously you need to make all the decisions because I don't know anything." Right? And you just keep doing it. Every time they insult you, you agree, and then you amplify, meaning you exaggerate it. Eventually, what happens usually is they stop. And they'll say, "Well, okay, well, maybe not." Try it. Try that it's a little technique. It's called agree and amplify. It's something that men do with women in dating. It's very effective, but you can use it in those kind of situations. And can you see how you're being flexible? You're not going back at them. You're not insulting them. You're actually giving them compliments, but they're so exaggerated that it throws them off balance. Give it a try. Please tell us, also Julio says, please tell us about Japanese culture versus Latin American culture. I don't know enough about Latin American culture. I've traveled in Latin America a little, but I've never lived there anywhere in Latin America. So, it would be hard for me to I can compare it to North American culture, but Latin culture would be a little hard for me. I would only kind of know some stereotypes, so it wouldn't be a good comparison, I think. All right, we're going to go with one more, and then we're going to finish. Okay, just give me a second to read through some of these because I've got a bunch of new ones here. Okay, yep, this is a good one. We'll end with the fasting one. Fasting also gives you more self-control, more wisdom, and makes you more flexible. Fasting does make you more flexible because when you fast, you realize, after you get used to fasting and you realize, and you get comfortable with it, you realize, I don't need to eat all the time, and it can make you more flexible. Like if you're traveling and there's no food around, you don't need to panic, you just don't eat, right? You kind of, you get a little more relaxed about eating and food and more flexible about it. So it can also help in that area. Yes. All right. Well, that's it. I think I just got to catch up on The Hobbit. I've read, I want to do 3 chapters probably tomorrow. And I think I've got to read 2 more. So I'll reread a couple chapters. All right. Well, lots of love to you. And thank you again. Be flexible, flow, and read the Daodejing. Okay, lots of love to you. See you next time. Join my VIP program, Commit Don't Quit, at effortlessenglishclub.com. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com. See you next time.